Hello, welcome to the last Bible study in John's Gospel. Hopefully you've enjoyed this series. We will continue next week with a new Bible study series. We do something a little bit shorter than this one, but it's certainly been an interesting journey, learning as we go. And as always, my aim is not just to try and bring out some, if you like, theological understanding of the Bible, but much more how does this apply and how does this impact us? Because that's what the Bible's there for. It's there to bring a deep change in our hearts as we seek day by day, week by week, to walk with Jesus and follow the leading of the Holy Spirit. So today, anyway, we're in John chapter 21, and in this version of the Bible, it's titled Jesus Reinstates Peter. And it's that journey from where he denied Jesus, he betrayed Jesus, he was at that point separated. I think you have to put that into the context, is all the disciples were separated from Jesus at that point, and it was something that had to happen for the completion of the work of the cross. And so here, now, this is the point where Jesus has appeared, to Simon, or Simon Peter as he was known, a number of times. So there's been that ongoing journey, but you're just left with that feeling that there's an impact gone on deep in his heart that is ongoing and is yet to be resolved. Now, I've been looking at this just wondering which way to tackle it, because often the focus is on the deep meanings of each way that Jesus addresses the question of, do you love me? Do you love me? But I'm not going to go that way. I want to take it almost as a whole group together. So in the context, it says they'd finished eating, and I think there was an audience for this conversation. And I think the audience is important, because what's going on in this ongoing journey is very visibly Jesus is bringing that sense of reinstatement of the disciples. It's not just the individual themselves, it's how other people see them. So with Thomas, he'd been speaking doubt and questions and everything else, and it really was a case that excuse me, in there we are, in chapter 20, that as Thomas has that encounter with Jesus, everyone's watching on, and there's something powerful in that. I think when we see people in their encounters with the Father, it does something in our own hearts and matures us up and helps us grow in our faith. So you've got everybody watching. They all know what he's been through. And there's probably an element where all the disciples are waiting for this conversation to happen, where Jesus would address the impact on Peter. They'd seen Jesus be direct. They'd seen him challenge. They'd seen him challenge Peter. And here comes this moment that they've all been waiting for. They're all watching, and they finished eating, and they hear Jesus addressing Simon Peter. And he says, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" And I'm not sure who he was talking to. Maybe he was just talking to the other disciples. Maybe he gestured towards the fishing and the fish. I don't know. He had a love for fishing and the disciples. But let's take it to be the disciples in this case. And it's like, do you love me more than your friends? And Jesus is elevating Peter's love. He's elevating it above his love for his friends, those that he hangs out with, those that he's with. And Simon Peter's response was, "You know that I love you." He's acknowledging something here in his own heart, but he's doing more than that. He's saying, Jesus, you know this already. It's something that not just I have expressed, but it's something that I know that you know supernaturally as well. And I think that's the depth. It's like, you know, Jesus, you know that I love you. Yeah, he's looking back and he can see his mistakes, he can see his failings, he can see all that. But there's something bigger and more important rising up. And I think that's so true for us as well, that we can focus on the wrong things, but what Jesus is looking for in our hearts is, even if we've made a mess of something, our heart is rising up and saying, hey, Jesus, you know that I love you. Yeah, it's a great statement can you say it in your own heart? If not, ask the Father to help you deal with those things, that love that you have for Jesus, you can state that confidently. Yeah, it's so well expressed. Jesus, you know that I love you. Jesus' response here is, feed my lambs. There's a beginning out of this love relationship of another step of commissioning for Peter. Feed my lambs. Feed those that I love. Feed those that I care for. Feed the flock that I've looked after. And I'm sure even in that moment, Peter's mind went to some of the other times where Jesus had used the illustration of the sheep. And Jesus asks again, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And I can see that Peter would be like, I've just answered that question. Why are you asking me again? What's changed in the last couple of moments? But he answers, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And his answer this time is, take care of my sheep. The first time it's talking about the lambs, almost that sense of those that their survival depends on being fed. Now the sheep is almost like completing the range of people. So the next time he goes, Simon, son of John, do you love me? So this time Peter, it's interesting, isn't it? Actually, I just noticed that this time the response, he says, Peter was hurt. It's like the rock in him is being established here. Peter the rock. He said Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. He's making this clear, categoric statement. Jesus, you know my heart. And even in these moments, I think there's a covering of what went before, and a releasing and a preparation for the purpose that is only a very small number of days away. And Jesus just replies, feed my sheep. And then he goes on and expresses to him, actually, you will die. I think it's actually quite important. It says, I'll read it out. It says, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. When you're old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. And it says, Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. And you look at that and you're like, what was the cry in Peter's heart? It was like, before the cross, he's like, I'm willing to die. I'll walk this so closely with you, I'm willing to die for you. And he failed, yet Jesus actually reinstated that cry in his heart and said, yeah, actually the day will come when you'll be martyred for the sake of the gospel. And he doesn't wipe him out, but he restores him. And there's various other questions that go on, but just to finish this passage, in verse 25, Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them was written down, I suppose even the whole world would not have room for the books that have been written. And I love that finish when we're looking, going, do you know, even if everything was written down, we think how much has been written down and how long it takes to consider those things. But he said if it had all been written down, there was so much that happened, so many testimonies, so many stories to the incredible nature and person of Jesus. that the world couldn't contain them all. So as we finish John's Gospel, my prayer is for all of us that we'll gain and grow more in understanding of who Jesus is today for us, and that we'll be able to live out of that knowledge and understanding. Thank you so much for being with me, and well done for those of you that, and I know there's a good number of you that have followed week in, week out this series that, basically I guess has been going about a year. So thank you for being with me in this, and on Tuesday we'll start a new series. So bless you. Have a great week. Bye for now.